Along the highway that has unfortunately now been called the Highway of Tears, there are hundreds of women who've gone missing. We know that there are hundreds of women who've gone missing across the country. The Prime Minister has refused a royal commission. Why not a parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there is no party, no government in history that has taken more seriously the problem of violence against women than this government.
Well, let's have a conversation. What were we talking about?
Missing Indigenous women in Canada.
Today in the newscast last night, they're saying 1,200. So it's a deep concern for the Native peoples across Canada because nothing is being done to address the murdered women and nothing is being done to address the missing women.
I feel sad. I feel sad that there's not enough coverage by our mainstream media regarding the missing Indigenous and murdered women here in Canada. I wish that there was more. I'm not sure what else to say about that other than I think as an educator, people need more education on the types of issues that are very relevant to all people who live in this country.
It's a big issue with First Nations people because of the fact that a lot of like the Ontario Native Women's Association and the Assembly of First Nations, a lot of political organizations are actually calling for an inquiry into the missing and murdered women. When it first started, there were 600, and as like the campaign, like Walking with Our Sisters, has went on, the numbers of reported missing and murdered women has increased to over 1,000.
I think it's very embarrassing to all Indigenous people across Canada. I feel like we're not being treated equal. We're looked down upon. Like we're not as important as other races in this country.
As an Aboriginal woman, I feel a lot of empathy towards the families and I feel a lot of anger as well because nothing is being done.
It doesn't make me feel safe. If I was to go missing or murdered, I feel like my family would be going through a really difficult time trying to get justice for me.
You know, I thought that I would be able to provide a male perspective into the requirement for balance that, you know, the Missing and Murdered Women campaign, the Walking with Their Sisters campaign is primarily a driven issue by women. But the men also have to take responsibility for their behaviors in this and critically look at how we are responsible for the missing and murdered women. Not only as perpetuators of violence, but as a male-dominated society, how males actually look at their role in allowing this violence to continue.
Scared. Definitely scared. Scared as a Indigenous woman for sure, from a small town. I'd like to think, people would be aware of it. But as a mother, and watching my young daughters growing up, to think that could one day be them, that scares me. And as an auntie, that scares me.
Okay.
As a cousin, scary.
Yeah.
That's really scary.
Yeah, I guess it's an idea by Christine Balfour. She was wondering how we could, or how she herself would honor the people or women that were missing and murdered, the Native women in Canada and the US. And her story to us was that she thought that putting a call out to all the families of the missing and murdered women in Canada and having them make vamps or moccasin tops to represent that they're lost. They're lost, I guess, mothers, daughters, granddaughters. And at the time, she didn't think that the call would be that much, but it was overwhelming. She had received 1,726 VAMPs, and that's a pair. So that's times 2. That's how many VAMPs she received. So the very first display was in Edmonton, the second was in Regina, and the third was in Parry Sound. And that was, I guess, was at the request of Tracy Paywitz, who had done a pair of VAMPs and sent them in to to Christine. Christine lives in Espanola, and that's where all the VAMPs were being sent to. And I guess just as things progressed, as she was receiving the VAMPs, that's the idea of putting them on display throughout Canada and to bring attention to the problem of missing and murdered women, Native women across Canada and the U.S. was bringing it to the forefront because there was nothing being done politically or I guess legally.
Really encouraged by the campaign. I'm encouraged by the fact that more people are becoming aware of the issue. I think it adds for more discussion, it adds for more awareness and education on looking at why there's this epidemic of missing and murdered women in our country, and how we can critically look at how colonialism and marginalization of women has a role in that, and how not just Native people but non-Native people can learn more to reverse the impacts.
Or the Highway of Tears, and told me a few stories about some of the women that had gone missing or murdered along that highway.
I had the opportunity to sit as chief in our community from 2009 and 2010. I was actually sitting with one of the academic researchers for the Ontario Native Women's Association at a national conference. We started discussing the fact that the study was showed that it was not only non-Native males but also Native males that perpetuate violence against women, and are also, we have to look at ourselves as males in general.
Where one woman had given an account of what had happened to her. She'd been picked up. She was hitchhiking. She'd been picked up, and the truck was hit by a truck driver, and he was going to kill her, but she managed to get away. And she did write the story about it, but she would not give her name because she was afraid that person was going to come back and look for her and get her, kill her.
Dating someone whose son's mother had been murdered. She fell off a building in Toronto, and the police right away assumed it was a suicide. They wanted to close the case right after that, but her family fought for her justice.
There's an inequality in society of men and women. In society, in Western society particularly, male dominates that society, and women are held on a lower status. And it kind of indicates Native women are even marginalized further than women in general. So it's a point of colonialism, of domination of a society over Indigenous people, and more particularly Indigenous women. The fact that their lives are devalued, that they end up investigations are not fully followed through when they go missing or murdered. They're disregarded.
I don't think our family should have to fight for the justice of our women. The police should be doing that. The government should be doing that. They would be doing it for any other races. Why not our Indigenous women?
So this to me, this is very important for us to continue to work towards helping the families of the women who have gone missing or who have been murdered, to bring them closure.
I'm really glad you're focusing on this story. I think it'll help create awareness for other people. Hopefully not just youth, but also for all people.
'Cause we'll hold each other soon in the blackest of rooms. If heaven and hell decide that they both are satisfied.